In life, people sometimes come to ask the Buddha many questions, from the simplest things to the most profound and complex issues. However, the Buddha does not always answer immediately. This is not because he does not know, but because he understands that there are times when silence brings greater value than words. Silence has a special power. When the Buddha chooses to be silent, it is not out of indifference or lack of concern. He knows that not every question requires a specific answer. Instead, silence can create a space for others to reflect and find the answer for themselves. In many cases, speaking only adds to the confusion or distress of the questioner. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is also a profound psychological state. When people are silent, they have the opportunity to listen to their inner voice, to understand the emotions and thoughts that are present. This helps them gain insight and understanding about themselves and about life. For example, when a person is angry, if we try to talk or give advice, they may not be receptive. But if we choose to be silent, that person can gradually calm down. And when the mind is calm, it will be easier for them to understand the problem. Silence creates a safe space, where all emotions are accepted without judgment. Silence is not just a choice, it is also an art of living. Knowing when to speak, when to listen, when to be silent, is one of the noble qualities that everyone should practice. When we know how to use silence skillfully, we not only become good listeners, but also have the ability to understand more deeply about life and the people around us. For example, a Buddhist from San Diego sent a special cake to celebrate the teacher on an important occasion. When the cake was brought out, it was not just a simple gift, but also contained all the sincerity and heart of the Buddhist from far away. Everyone sat together around the cake, enjoying each sweet and meaningful piece. Stories were shared through each moment, from stories about daily life to profound lessons about Buddhism, about the path to finding inner peace. Silence was also mixed into those conversations. It was not an awkward silence, but a meditative silence, creating a quiet space around, where each person could listen to their own soul. In such moments, peace comes not only from the sweetness of the cake, but also from the connection between people, between souls. That moment becomes a valuable lesson in sharing, listening, and understanding, helping everyone feel more deeply about the inner peace that each of us is looking for. The Buddha once remained silent when someone cursed him. He did not react immediately, because he understood that words spoken in anger often only increase suffering. When faced with anger, people easily get caught up in the whirlwind of emotions, making the situation more tense. The Buddha, with his deep understanding of human psychology, chose to remain silent, allowing the surrounding atmosphere to become calm. The Buddha's silence was not indifference or lack of concern. Instead, it was an understanding that in many cases, words cannot solve the problem, but only make things more complicated. He knew that when others are expressing anger, they cannot accept reasoning or advice. Therefore, silence is the best way to avoid increasing their anger. The Buddha's silence also gives others the opportunity to reflect on what they have said. In such moments, the person who curses may realize that their anger does not really bring any benefit, but only causes them more suffering. When they see that the Buddha is not affected by their words, they may feel ashamed and question their actions. Many of us can learn from this behavior. In life, there are situations where reacting immediately can lead to unnecessary conflicts. When faced with criticism or anger from others, instead of responding with strong words, we can choose to remain silent. Sometimes silence not only shows strength, but is also a noble act, allowing us to preserve peace for ourselves and for others. There are times when silence is the best way to solve a problem, especially when faced with anger or suffering from others. When others experience pain or loss, they often need space to feel and process their emotions. Just being there and sitting with them without saying anything can be a great comfort. Just being there can help them feel less alone in difficult moments. From the teachings of the Buddha, we can see that silence can sometimes be more powerful than words. It is the art of listening and understanding that helps us not only process our own emotions, but also become a support for those around us. When we know when to be silent, we open up a space for peace and understanding, helping people find their way back to inner peace. When someone is going through pain, we may not need to say much. Sometimes words can be redundant and fail to convey the emotions that a grieving person needs. Instead, simply sitting next to them, holding their hand, and letting them know that they are not alone can be so much more meaningful. In times like these, our presence can create a safe space where others feel accepted and not judged. These moments of silence can be more comforting than words. When we say nothing, we allow them to feel their emotions without having to hide or put them into words. The silence in these moments is not just an absence of sound, but an invisible communication. We can convey love and compassion just by being there, creating a deep connection that words sometimes cannot express. The feeling of being held and hugged can bring peace to the soul, helping them realize that they do not have to face their pain alone. We can recall our own experiences. There may be times when we just need someone to be there, not to say anything, just to share space and emotions. This helps us feel more understood and comforted. Therefore, when we see others suffering, sometimes the best thing we can do is just be there, be quiet, and wait until they feel ready to talk about what they are going through. In this way, we also learn that the power of presence can overcome many barriers. These moments of silence not only help others find comfort, but also help us develop compassion and empathy. We become a source of comfort for each other, creating a network of emotional support in which each person feels loved and accepted, no matter what they are facing. So, in difficult times, remember that silence is sometimes the loudest voice of the heart. Be there for each other, hold each other's hands, and give each other the strength to overcome life's challenges. Silence is also necessary in arguments or when facing people who like to win or lose. In such tense situations, when emotions can easily overcome reason, keeping silent is not a sign of weakness or defeat, but in fact a sign of inner strength. Silence allows us to avoid getting caught up in pointless arguments, where sometimes even the most reasonable arguments can be clouded by ego and stubbornness. When we choose to remain silent, it is not that we have nothing to say, but that we choose not to hurt others with words that can cause misunderstandings or lasting harm. In conversations where the ego is challenged, continuing to argue only increases tension, sometimes pushing people into opposing positions and making differences more difficult to reconcile. But when we choose to remain silent, we are actually giving ourselves and the other person an opportunity to listen to each other more, to reflect on the situation with a calmer and more insightful perspective. Silence is not only to avoid conflict, but also to maintain harmony, to keep the relationship from being damaged by unnecessary words. Moreover, this silence is not only beneficial to others, but also to ourselves. When we don't let ourselves get dragged into endless arguments, we stay calm, keep positive energy, and especially keep our souls from being drawn into the negativity of others. In a world where everyone is trying to assert themselves, sometimes knowing how to step back and stay silent is the best way to protect ourselves and maintain harmony in all relationships. Therefore, when faced with people who like to compete, instead of responding immediately, try to be silent, listen, and give yourself time to think. Because sometimes silence is not only patience, but also the path to deeper understanding, helping us avoid unnecessary misunderstandings and maintain peace of mind. Ultimately, silence is not just an external stillness, but a deep state of inner peace. When we learn to be silent, we not only create silence for ourselves, but also open up space for our inner thoughts and emotions to emerge more clearly. Silence allows us to stop and look within, helping us gain a better understanding of what is going on in our lives and in our own minds. In this noisy and busy world, we often get caught up in the flow of daily activities, forgetting to listen to ourselves. Moments of silence are precious opportunities for us to pause, to review what has happened, to identify feelings and thoughts that we may have missed. When there is no noise of words and the echoes of life around us, we can hear our inner voice. That is where we find our truth about ourselves. Silence also gives us the ability to observe and understand the people around us more deeply. When we are silent, we not only listen to the words of others, but also feel their emotions, needs, and desires. Sometimes the most important things are not what is said, but what is left unsaid, the feelings hidden inside. When we take the time to listen in silence, we can see more clearly the stories and experiences that others are sharing, thereby understanding them more deeply. At the same time, silence also helps us develop patience and compassion. When we witness the pain or hardship of others, silence allows us to take the time to feel their sadness without having to immediately offer a solution or react. Not only does this help us become better friends, it also deepens our relationships with others because we are showing respect and empathy. Ultimately, practicing silence can lead to spiritual growth. When we learn to listen to ourselves and others, we are also opening our hearts. We become more sensitive to what is around us and are able to understand and accept different perspectives. This not only enriches us personally, but also helps build a community where empathy and understanding flourish. Silence is an art, and when we learn to use it skillfully, we can experience life more fully. It not only brings peace to the soul, but also helps us connect more deeply with ourselves and with those around us. Silence, therefore, is not only a state of stillness, but also a journey of inner exploration and personality development. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment sharing your views on this issue. Don't forget to follow the channel to update the latest content. See you in the next videos. When we take the time to listen in silence, we can see more clearly the stories and experiences that others are sharing, thereby understanding them more deeply.